if there was one thing you could point to, what led your outperformance in the underwriting space in the second quarter, and what's the catalyst going forward? Where do we go?
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for having me this morning. The one thing that led Goldman's outperformance is really our client relationships. I've been at Goldman for 23 years, and we've seen this again and again during many crises we've lived through. During a crisis, our clients come to us for not just execution, but the best advice. The second thing I'd say just about our advice, and I do run both the debt and equity capital markets business, is a lot of companies that were in crisis raised both debt and equity at the same time. And the way we're set up with the Global Financing Group, which I co-head with Dennis Coleman based in London, we're really able to give integrated advice along with our classic industry group bankers. So that would be the primary cause of our outperformance in both debt and equity markets.
So going forward, can we see the kind of issuance equity raises in the back half of the year?
So I'll start with equity and talk about debt as well. First of all, the equity markets have gone through a series of phases that caused the elevated volumes. The first phase was crisis capital raising, and that was largely for companies in the travel and leisure space, in the retail space, so airlines, cruise lines. And then as we moved out of crisis capital raise, both in the common market and the convert market, and sometimes in the private market, we moved into a phase where companies started to raise what I would call play offense capital. So these are companies that said, eventually we are going to come out of this. And when we recover, we want to be in the best position. We want to be better capitalized, whether that's for M&A or just growing our businesses organically. The third phase that we've entered into now, and this is why I think we do continue to see elevated levels of issuance, is the IPO phase. And if you had told me at the beginning of this crisis that the IPO market would reopen, stay open, and accelerate, I would have told you were wrong. And in fact, just last night I was talking to one of my partners who had an IPO slated to come this fall, and a company is accelerating into August because the markets are in such good shape. The other, sort of increase in volume we'll see will be companies selling shareholdings, so stakes. Public companies who own stakes in other companies, monetizing those if the markets stay robust. And then one last thing I think we may see is a return to the markets, perhaps equity, perhaps debt, depending on how long the virus is around and what things look like from a vaccine perspective and economic perspective, meaning you could see some folks come back to the market. So we don't expect issuance to be quite as robust as it was in the first half of the year or the first part of the COVID crisis, but we do think issuance remains robust, perhaps a slowdown as we move towards the election.